Good morning. I'm Ben Ayers, Dean of the Terry College of Business, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to our Terry Third Thursday. This is our monthly event. We are at our home here in Atlanta, our Terry Executive Ed Center, which is the home of our Executive MBA program, our Professional MBA program, as well as our executive programs. I'd like to thank each of you for being here. Also would like to thank our alumni board for organizing today's event as well as this entire series. They do a great job, and it takes a lot to organize this, and thank you, John. I'd also like to thank our sponsors, or our corporate sponsors, Synovus. Please join me in thanking them. And then our two media sponsors, Atlanta Journal-Constitution and WABE. We have just wrapped up the semester in Athens 2 weeks ago, finished a fantastic year in which we dedicated our second phase, the business learning community, Amos Hall, Benson Hall, and more Rooker Hall. In terms of news, we just had a recent ranking that was released. We now rank 6th best in return on investment for a full-time MBA program, and that joins a lot of other great rankings news for this year. So this has been a fantastic year on campus in Athens and here in Atlanta. Let me mention our upcoming speakers. So in June, we'll have Paul Bowers, who's the CEO of Georgia Power. July, we'll take a break, and then we'll be back in August. I know that you didn't come here this morning to hear me, so we're going to get right to our speakers. So it's my pleasure and honor to have Kirby Smart with us today. He needs no introduction, but he's going to get an introduction whether he likes it or not. So as you know, and we all know, Kirby came home a little more than 2 years ago back to Georgia. He was on the staff at Alabama for 9 years prior to that, and has had an incredible time here at UGA in so many ways. Obviously, this year we celebrated SEC championship, Rose Bowl championship as well as being in the national championship game, and so just a fantastic year for the University of Georgia and for our football program as well. Kirby is a former standout defensive back. He is also a scholar athlete. He is a Terry College grad with a finance degree. I think that comes in handy all the time. So he's a Terry College alum. He's also worked as a coach with the Miami Dolphins, LSU Tigers, Florida State, Valdosta State. He is a 4-time member of the SEC Academic Honor Roll. He also has an MS in physical education from Florida State. One of his best decisions in life was to marry Mary Beth. She is also a Terry College grad, also a finance grad. She's also a scholar athlete. The Smart family are all in when it comes to the University of Georgia. They're also committed to the Terry College. This year, Mary Beth was the honorary chairperson of our Terry Alumni Awards and Gala, which we just had in April. It was our best ever. It was our biggest ever. In addition, Kirby and Mary Beth are supporting our facilities in the business learning community. So we're honored in Phase 3 in Sanford and Barbara Orkin Hall, we'll have the Kirby and Mary Beth Smart classroom. They are both the proud parents of twins Weston and Julia, as well as a son Andrew, and it is our honor and privilege to have Kirby with us today. He has an incredibly busy schedule, so please join me in welcoming Kirby Smart.
Thank you there, Dean Ayers. I tell you what, it's been an honor and privilege to work with Dean Ayers since getting to Athens. He does a tremendous job with our Terry College. Not only that, I get a lot of credit for being a good recruiter, but he's 10 times the recruiter I am because he got me here today. And he has been working me since arrival to get over here, and countless number of text messages, but we got it worked out. And excited to be here. But I think he mentioned my wife and myself are very, very proud Terry College graduates, and it's been a great selling piece in recruiting to be able to have the University of Georgia, Terry College to recruit to. So as I've gone on speaking tours and I've gone on fundraising tours, I would be remiss if I missed this opportunity to put a plug in for Dean Ayers. So many places I went early on after the national championship and after the Rose Bowl, so I went around recruiting. Most Georgia fans hit me with, man, Coach, it was a great year, but you really hit me in the wallet, man. We had Notre Dame, we had SEC championship, we had the Rose Bowl, we had to fly there, we had to come back. I'm thinking, wait a second now. All these years we've been waiting to go play in all these great games, and now you want to complain about the finances. But this morning, not one person came to me and complained about that, so that means y'all got really deep pockets. So when you get an opportunity to give back, the expectation is to give back, and Terry's a great place to invest on that because you get a great return on your investment like he just mentioned. Really, I want to be able to share a few things with you this morning. There's nothing that I'm going to say that's going to be groundbreaking. There's nothing that I'm going to say that you probably haven't heard before. But a lot of the things that we share with our football program relate to real-world activities, relate to the business world. And it's not always what you say, but how you say it and what compassion and energy that you present that with. And that's one of the things I pride myself on is the energy and passion with which I coach. I feel like I'm very blessed every day to get up and do something that I love to do. I mean, by all accounts, it is what I want to do. It's what I've always wanted to do. It is my passion and energy, and it would be that way if I was still at Valdosta State in my first job, because I enjoy impacting youth, seeing people grow, seeing them develop, seeing them achieve their goals, seeing them graduate, seeing them go on to the real world where so many of you guys are and be successful. But that's a big part of what I do. Now, I'm going to open with a video and I'm going to close with a video. I've got a short little video, and I'll bet you that a lot of you guys have actually seen it. It went viral maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, but it really touched me because I worked with the guy in the video for a year at the Miami Dolphins, all right? And then it also brings the attention to detail. And I think that's what separates great from average, is what attention to detail do you have? How much are you willing to do the simple things better, which is a mantra we had last year. Can you do the simple things better? Do you get bored with the simple things? You can't get bored with the simple things because they're what makes you different. But also in this video, you're going to see a compassion and energy between a relationship of a coach and a player that really hit home with me. Because I was close to this coach, didn't really know the player, but as we all have employees, people we work with, the relationships you build within your organization is what makes it different. It's simple. It's just the relationships and how you feel about the people you work around and what you're willing to give up, your selflessness, which was a great indicator of our team last year. You look at what Nick Chubb, Sony Michel, I was at the draft. I had 9 coaches come up to me at the draft and say, you know, I was pulling so hard for y'all all year. You had a great representative of your team in 2 players shining, sharing the light, which in this day and age is unheard of, to have 2 guys, Sony and Nick, share the ball and share the limelight. And people want to pull for that. They want to do that. But it's the relationship I have with those seniors, some of the juniors, that was special to me. And I kind of want to open with this video and let you guys watch this.
In 2015 in training camp, we asked some of our veteran players, our best players, our leaders, to make presentations to the team at our night meetings. And so Witt went first, and we talked about it. He said, hey, I want to talk about Y option. This is his play, signature play. He's got over 1,100 catches. Probably half of them are on Y option. For those of you guys who are here, who are in the room, you remember what I'm talking about. It was simply the greatest presentation I've ever seen in football. He talked about his stance, where his weight is, where his hand is, how he releases versus defender, inside or outside, based on his alignment. He talked about the number of steps he takes, if the guy's inside leverage or outside leverage, how he runs the routes. He talked about his eyes, his shoulders, his hips, his feet, the angle he's taking coming out, what he's doing with the ball after he catches it. It was just like nothing I'd ever seen. He finishes the presentation with a clip. It was a clip of one play from the previous season.
Romo over the middle. He's got Witten. Witten down inside the 25.
We played Detroit in the playoff game at our stadium, and the situation was 4th and 6 with just over 6 minutes to go in the game. We were down by 3. We're on the plus 42-yard line. This is the play of the game. We call it Y option. Detroit plays two-man. Two-man means they're going to rush four, have two deep safeties, and all the cover guys can play underneath their man because they got help. If you look back on it, Y option is probably not a great call versus two-man. If you run Y option 100 times versus this look, 95 times the option is to break out. So Witten, who knows this play better than anybody on the planet, gets up to the top of the route. He feels the defender sink underneath him and play to the outside. He puts his right foot in the ground, gives a little head nod, circles back inside. Romo moves, delivers a strike between the 8 and the 2. Witt turns up the field, 21-yard gain. 6 plays later, Romo to Terrence Williams for a touchdown, the game winner. So Witt takes the next couple minutes talking about what he saw and what he felt. It was great. But then he stops, and he says, I'll tell you why this play really worked. And he said, I want you to look at Dez Bryant here. He's our ex-receiver. They play two-man for one reason. Dez Bryant. They need a guy underneath. They need a guy on top. Dez Bryant's one of the best receivers in the National Football League. He deserves that attention. Then he talked about the offensive line, Tyron Smith and his set, and how he used his hands and where his eyes were, and how he punched and scratched and clawed and fought. He talked about Ron Leary, our left guard, Travis Frederick, Zach Martin working inside, working together, passing things off, scratching, clawing, fighting until the end of the down. Talked about Jeremy Parnell, our right tackle, his set, and how he was battling to somehow keep the rusher away from Romo. He talked about Cole Beasley and Terrence Williams taking outside releases, turning the defender's eyes away from him and running the safety off so he'd be isolated. He talked about DeMarco Murray, his protection assignment, running a swing, get that linebacker out of there so I can break inside. Then he talked about Romo, the greatness of Romo, his toughness, mental toughness, physical toughness, his instincts, his awareness to kind of hang in there with him. It all came alive on 4th and 6. Romo slid, threw it between the 8 and the 2, and he went. So it struck me that this play, his signature play, where he made it at the critical moment, he didn't make it about him. He did what he always does. He makes it about everybody else. He made it about the team.
You know, and that piece really hit home with me because I know Jason personally, but to see that and we've shown this to our players, and I think it's really critical that they see that relationship between player and coach, that there's a love and a compassion when that guy's ending a long career, but to see that player give recognition to everybody around him when he's the guy that made the break, the catch, the big play of the game, he's talking to the media afterwards, he's spending time, you know, he gets the accolades, he might even get the contract. But everybody else that worked around him to make that work, I think in our day-to-day lives, we don't do that enough. I don't think every email you send, every job you do, there's somebody that's helping you. There's somebody that's working alongside you that deserves credit, that deserves the accolades, and to be able to give that to them, I think that's special, and I think it makes our world different, and it makes us different in the world we live in. I'm going to talk about a few other points here that we drive home at the University of Georgia, but this one started way back in, I think, 2008, the illusion of choice. And it's never been explained better than sitting in front of a room and you have an apple in one hand and you have a bag of Doritos in another. And this is a great analogy for football players because, as you know, most of them are big people. But you have the illusion of choice that you can eat this bag of Doritos or you can eat this apple. And there is no choice. In actuality, if you want to be successful, the path that you want to take to be successful, there's really one path. It's making the right decisions. And you don't have a choice if you want to be successful, and that's defined by what you do. And I recall so many times where this is referenced to our players. To be successful, to be great, the thing people have in common, they realize they really don't have a choice. There's one way, the right way, the hard way. There's no shortcuts. So when we get freshmen in, so many of them are not trained in the fact that you really don't have a choice. At 7:30 when the alarm clock goes off and you've got the 8 o'clock class, everybody tells you have a choice. You don't have a choice. Because if you want to be a really good player, you're going to get up and go to class. If you want to be different in your working environment, you've got to do something that somebody else is not willing to do. That's what successful people are. Successful people are the people that are willing to do something that somebody else is not. That's what makes you different. And that's what we drive home all the time, because once they get and acknowledge that, it's a lot easier to be successful when they get to that point. I'm going to hit a couple of our team themes, and you've seen a lot of these, but I want to drive them home. And really, it's simple. Everybody talks about having simple messaging. We want really simple messaging for our guys, all right? Not all our guys are in Terry College of Business, okay? So we got to have really simple messaging when we do things. We want them to understand what the points of emphasis are. And you can't have too many of them. All right, but we all know the first one for us, and it's a simple theme. It's very simple. Like, well, what was attack today? That's simple. Yeah, but it's when you walk in the weight room and you're tired because maybe you studied until 1 a.m. the night before. At least I hope most of our guys did that. They're coming in to attack the day. It's an aggressive approach to daily life. Do you attack the day every day, or are you attacking today? I go in the weight room and see a guy, poor mouthing down in the dumps. He's not playing. Something's going wrong socially, maybe his girlfriend, or he's struggling in the class. Just ask him, are you attacking the day, or are you sitting back? Because if you're not attacking the day, you're getting out-competed by your competitors, and we can't handle that. That's one thing we want to accept at Georgia, is to get out-competed for a play, a ball, a lift, a rep, a workout. It doesn't matter. We want to attack the day every day. Keep the main thing the main thing. A lot of you remember on the stretch run, we had this come about, and I want to tell you why it came about. All right, we win the SEC championship. We beat Auburn. All right, we've got basically 23 to 24 days until we play in a playoff game. What sport do you go 3 weeks without playing a game in the playoffs? I don't know one. I don't know when you go that long. I mean, golf there every week, right? They get the FedEx Cup points, basketball, football. We got 3 weeks, and I am a nervous wreck because we've just won the SEC for the first time in however many years. We're getting ready to play, Oklahoma. We find out shortly thereafter in a playoff game in a really different environment. So the distractions we have SEC champions for the first time in forever. We have final exams. We have an early signing date, which is a major distraction for our coaches because we're focused on something other than our team. We're focused on recruiting other players. We've got draft and agents, which is a major concern when you're a highly ranked team with good football players. Is Lorenzo Carter, Sony, Nick, Isaiah Wynn, are they worried about their draft status? Is Roquan coming out early? A lot of distractions. Christmas, travel to a bowl site, travel to L.A., and be in a completely different environment for our players. So we had to come up with something to say, keep the main thing the main thing. And that's as simple as it is. Every time you think about a distraction, just go back to this. Just go back to this. Every lift you have for 23 days, every practice you have for 23 days, keep the main thing, and don't get, because today's day and age, social media, all the different things they have to distract them, especially winning the SEC championship, we really had to focus on that. Now, early in the first half, I didn't think it worked very good, all right, while we were playing Oklahoma. But at least in the second half, we kept the main thing, and that was big for us. And then this one's really simple. Trevor, who helps us with our sports psychology piece, came up with this one, and it really followed up that game that we wanted to do simple better. Because when you play in big moments, people get nervous. People get their hands fidget. They can't stand over a putt. They can't make things. How do we make simple better? Just do simple better. And we want to do the little things. The things that Jason Witten talked about, his stance. The guy stood up in front of a 53-man roster at the Cowboys and went through his stance. I mean, how elementary is that? Are you doing that in your everyday workforce? Are you doing simple better? Because as simple as it is, it boils down to relationships, and are you willing to do simple better than the next guy? Are you willing to write a letter to one guy, a handwritten letter, to make yourself different than the other guy? And that's what we try to do, is do simple better. That's a big piece for us. Now, this next one is kind of in the middle of the presentation. I want to share it with you. It was a fun piece for me. You guys may not enjoy it as much as our players, but our players are all, I guess, millennials or whatever you want to call them. They think different than we do. So they can't last in a meeting room for more than about 25, 30 minutes. So every Monday, we kind of had a mantra. As we started winning games, we had a little deal where I went back and got a throwback song, and I said, we're going to listen to this song every Monday in the team meeting. Because in a Monday team meeting in a football schedule, you're putting the game from Saturday to rest. We don't get our players on Sunday. It's a mandatory NCAA day off. So when they come in on Monday, we got to put that game to rest. And as you know, in the state of Georgia, there's a lot of back patters. They're going to pat them on the back. Good job, man. Good job. Y'all beat Notre Dame. Great job, man. Y'all beat Mississippi State. So on Monday, we had to refocus on the team we were going to play. The talking heads are the people on ESPN, the people in the paper. They're sometimes the people we like to say they're smiling in your face. So we said, you know what? We're going to play this every Monday. And the players at first had no idea. They were like, man, that's my dad's song. But we kept playing it. We played it in flex. We played it every day. And I'm going to let you guys enjoy this for about 5 seconds.
They smiling in your face all the time. They want to take your place. The backstabbers, backstabbers. They smiling in your face all the time. They want to take your place. The backstabbers, backstabbers.
That was a big piece for us. So the players got to the point where every Monday they knew at the end of our meeting we showed good, bad, ugly tape. We put the game to rest, and now we're working on the next opponent. And you had to really understand that all week you were going to hear about how bad Georgia was going to beat this team, how good Georgia was. But the same people that were saying those things were the ones saying how bad we were the year before and how we couldn't do it. And we called them the backstabbers. They're smiling in your face, but they'll be the first one that want to take your place. So we kept playing that over and over, and we did it at Flex every day, and a lot of the players came to me and was like, Coach, I never heard that song, and they really enjoyed it. So I'm sure Quavo or somebody will come out with a new version of it here soon. So some of you guys don't know who that is. That's all right, too. The next piece I think is really important, and we've shared this with our not really our team, but more so the leadership portion of our team and also our coaching staff. And Gallup Poll did a study on this, and I think it was about 10 years ago, and I first saw it when I was at the Miami Dolphins, but 26% of the working population is engaged. Engaged defined as loyal and productive, all right? This is where we want to operate, all right? We want to operate here. Perfect world, we want 100%. That's not realistic. That's not going to happen, especially in an environment that's really competitive, because some people rise to that occasion, some people don't. It's the same way with our football team. There's guys that rise and get better and improve and do things, but we got about 26% that are actively engaged, loyal, and productive. 55%, and this is your larger pool, this is the middle half, they're just putting in time. They're not engaged at all. They're sitting right in the middle, and they're okay. They're going to do what they get asked to do. They're just kind of compliant. All right. Then the 19% actively disengaged, unhappy, spreading their discontent. Our job, or my job as the CEO of the organization or the head coach of the organization, is to move as many people from this category, 55%, all the way to that 26%. And the best teams I've been around, very similar to last year, are higher on this end. They're engaged. They're bought into their role. They have a defined role. They know what their role is, and they do their job. But if you don't define that role, make them proud of that role. Give them value in being a kickoff coverage guy. Whatever their simple little thing is they have to do well, define it for them, engage them in it, get them moved to engaged, move this 55% here, and then take this 19% and try to move everyone you can just to this level, step one. Okay? Because this is your negative. This is the guy that thinks he's not getting treated fair. This is the employee that's saying, I'm not making enough money all the time, or I'm not happy in what I'm doing, and then they spread discontent. And I'm really big on confront and demand. I think that the organization starts at the top, and if you hold people accountable and you hold people to a standard that you can make them understand, they can move from actively disengaged to not engaged, and then hopefully to engaged. And I would say last year we were probably clicking around 45, 50% here. It wasn't a perfect world last year. There were guys that were frustrated. There were guys that were upset. But when you're going to be great in an organization, you got to have everybody pulling on the same side. And that's not easy. It's not easy in a me world, definitely not easy in the athletic world, and I know it's not easy in you guys' world because everybody's not happy in their place. One thing we do at our place that I think is really good in the recruiting world, Texas, Tom Herman's a good friend of mine. We share a lot of ideas. He actually visits us. We visit with him. We don't think we have to butt heads a lot because we've kind of got our own states, and we're long enough away we don't go head-to-head with Texas a lot. But he was talking about what do you do differently in your recruiting. One of the biggest things we do is we give value to the lowest level. We have a group called the Dog Pound. They're a group of student workers, and each coach has a student worker. He's just a student at Georgia. He might get 6-7 hours a week of work time, and he comes in and he cuts up tape. He makes a highlight tape of this player or that player. But these guys have the best ideas in recruiting. So when you're going to have a guy on campus, or you're going to have an employee come in to possibly hire him, or you're going to do something to change up the environment in your workplace, the youth in your organization sometimes has the best ideas, but they're muzzled. They don't have a voice. So for us, it was bring these guys to light, let them come in. I sit down with them at a staff table. They sit around the head staff table that all our full-time coaches sit at, and I get to say, tell me what we can do better. Tell me what you guys think, because you're on the recruiting visit. You're there with mama, daddy, aunt, uncle. You ride around in the car with them. You go place to place. Tell us what we can do better. It's amazing the amount of ideas we get from these guys. Maybe they're just a lot smarter than us. I don't know. But they're students at Georgia, so they probably all had 33 ACTs coming in, and they're brilliant. But they have innovative ideas, and I think when you use that, that gives them self-worth. They now take and say, you know what? I had something to do with that. So now they're buying in, and they bought into the whole, they've gone from maybe not engaged to 100% all in engaged, and that's what we want to try to have at the University of Georgia. We've been very fortunate to do that, and it's helped us a lot. Next piece for us. And this is the last statement I'll put on here. In essence, the CEO is trying to get the ratio of engaged to actively disengaged workers. We're trying to improve that ratio at all times, and anything you can do to move that really helps us. The next thing I want to share with you is a performance base. We did this a long time ago. Trevor helped with it. But if everything for you is based on performance, which in the real world it is, they're not giving out participation trophies in the real world. It's not happening. They're not doing it in the SEC, and SEC saying, hey, here's, whoever finished at the bottom, you guys get a trophy too. They're not doing that in the SEC. They're not doing it when you walk outside this building. So if everything's based on performance, we want to find the 7 critical factors that really affect our players, all right? The hardest thing for me from being tactical, and that's ultimately what I was for 9 years as a defensive coordinator. I was tactical. I was working on defensive design, what we were going to do defensively. Now, yeah, you always worked on skills as a defensive coordinator. The psychology of your player is always a factor, which I think is the most underused factor in all of sports business there is. Emotional, social, recovery, whether it's nutrition, rehab, environmental concerns are a factor. Talking about when you're playing outside. Y'all don't have that as much as we have it. But performance-based on these 7 things and then dividing them up, I have to be the CEO of all these. How can you fill all these cups up better than the next guy? And if you fill all 21 of these cups on the outside better than the next guy, guess what happens? You start getting production. You start getting performance. You start outperforming other teams. You don't have those letdowns. You don't have those week-to-week things where you're like, who was that team? Who was that team? When the standard is always here. So we define these, and then we say, okay, who can be the expert at this one? Who can be the sports psychologist in this one? Who can be the skills trainer? Who can be the tactical? And if you have an organization that has really good leadership in all 7 of those, then the 21 on the outside start getting really good. But breaking that down to what's going to be successful for you in your business, it becomes everything. It becomes where you can outwork people, where you can become better than them. And there's a lot of people, I think, in college football that don't fill all these cups up. And in your line of work, how can you outcompete? How can you outwork? How can you fill your cups up better than the guy next to you, which I think is critical, all right? I got 2 more here before I finish and take questions. But this level of competency, this is really important. It's almost a continuum. All right, where we have our guys come in. A lot of teams draft based on this. Tom Coughlin, he does his draft based on this. All right, he can take this and say, I'm going to draft a guy 1st round, 2nd round, or I'm just not even going to draft a guy based on the level of competency. Unconsciously incompetent. They don't know that they don't know. All right, real simple. About 80% of these freshmen that you read about, and I'm going to get some guy in this crowd ask me about a prospect, they're going to say, is he going to be the next coming of Herschel Walker? And I'm going to say, he don't know that he don't know. And I know that's not proper English because my mom's an English teacher. But you got to understand that most of the players you inherit, they come in and they're so oblivious that they don't even realize they don't know. Our job is how do we move them? So if you got a brand new employee, first thing you better figure out is where are they on this? Are they so unaware of their surroundings that they don't know what they have to do to be successful, all right? Then the consciously incompetent, this is one of my favorites because now a lot of guys have moved to the point where, they now realize, I don't know. You know what I mean? They know they don't know, all right? They realize it. That freshman gets out there and we do the first 2 or 3 practices and they're going, whoa, This is not what I signed up for. They now realize that they don't know what it takes to be successful. Getting to this point is important. Now, I think a lot of guys in the world I live in used to come in the old working class. They came in thinking, man, I don't know what I'm getting into. The old freshmen, when freshmen couldn't play, things like that. The older employees used to take in. They were a little intimidated. These kids nowadays, they all come in here now. They think they know it all, and they have no idea they don't know it all, right? So they're in there. Then you move to this state, and then the unconsciously competent, they don't really know why they're successful, but they are successful at times, all right? They don't know that you know. So in this situation, this might be a kid that comes in, and I liken it to Andrew Thomas, all right? He plays well at times. He has streaks of playing well, but he doesn't really understand why he plays well. That employee doesn't really understand why they perform well. They perform well at times. They have a good quarter. They have a good semester, but they don't really know why they did it. They don't know what caused that. What did I do? Did I eat something that made me do that? Did I really work hard? They don't understand why, but they have streaky performances, and they're able to perform at a high level. Then the last one, which I like to liken this one to the Roquan Smith category, because he knows what makes him successful, and he knows how to do it. He performs well at a standard. He does it consistently, and he can tell you why he does it consistently. Well, I do it because on Monday, I come in and I go in and I get in the cryotherapy, and then I go and I run a little more on Tuesday, and I study more tape. I watch third down reel on Wednesday. He can tell you exactly why he's successful. He can define those things and tell you why he's successful. And that's the continuum we're trying to get to. I want the guys that know they know, and they know why it's important to do it. That's where we're trying to work to at University of Georgia to get our players to, and most of the guys we'll inherit here in June will be behind that, okay? And I'm about to finish here, and this is, you're going to have to bear with me because I'm going to do questions at, I think at 8:30, all right? But I've got a video, and I am so big on every Monday, when we have a bad practice, I come in the next day, and I'm like, look, guys, everybody's bored in here. I can see you guys now, half of you reaching for your cell phones. What can you do to keep the players' attention? What can you do to keep their awareness? That is critical to our success. We're teachers. I got a dad that was a high school coach, a mom that was an English teacher, and I'm thinking the best English teacher I ever had was my mom. Why? Because she kept it interesting. She kept it fun and exciting. We're trying to do that with our players. Well, the generation we deal with now, to keep it exciting, has gotten harder and harder and harder and harder to keep their attention span. I mean, we literally have meetings that are an hour long. You'd think, well, you guys sit in hour-long meetings all the time, 2 and 3 hours probably. We have to be creative. So I tell our coaches, you better change it up. You better have NFL tape. You better have a reason why. I mean, we have a tape every Monday that shows our guys a team that made a really critical error, a celebration penalty that cost a game, so that they can learn from those mistakes. I just challenge you that in your working environment, don't walk in and do the same thing every day. If you do the same thing every day, you'll get the same results guaranteed. And if you're happy with your results, you've arrived. If you've arrived, you might as well leave, because you never arrive. You never arrive as an athlete. You're going to see that on this video. And I think one of the most moving points in this video is Tiger Woods. When a reporter asked him if you're there yet, and he was young in his career. I mean, this was one of his masters early on. He said, have you arrived? And his answer is so epic. It proves so much to so many people, especially the guys sitting in our seats every day that sit back and watch these tapes. But when you bring these videos in, you're talking about guys being on the edge of their seats. When our seniors leave, I have a meeting with them, and I tell them, what impacted you the greatest this season? About 6 guys told me, Coach, those videos on Monday were awesome. I wanted those videos. I mean, I crave for those videos. They motivated me. So I'm going to share one of these with you guys. I really think it's important to listen. It talks about limitless minds, and then we'll open it for questions after that. It is about 8-9 minutes long, so we'll finish right here at 8:30 and take some questions. So I think as that finishes, and before we open it for questions, I challenge everybody in the room that as you go out in your endeavor, that when you're green, you grow, and you're ripe, you rot, and you want to stay green. There's not a year that we don't start a season that we don't go back through the most basic things in the organization to make sure everybody has a defined role. And I challenge you to do that, because when you get bored at what you're doing or you think you've arrived, that, just like Tiger said, you might as well quit. You might as well start all over, find a new endeavor, to something that drives you to be the greatest, drives you to be competitive and enjoy what you do, because life is too short to do otherwise, and that becomes really important. I'll open it up for questions now, and take anything and everything. All permissible.
We have a couple of mics
Hey, Coach, thanks. Really appreciate that video. One of those, you running across the stage, run across the field when you go boom.
Yeah.
When we celebrate wins in our office, we say boom. So I appreciate that clip.
Absolutely. It was instinctive, I promise you. What came after it was not. So.
You cut that part out.
Yeah.
The question is going to sound like a quarterback competition question, but it's really not. I want you to relate it back to business in that with Justin Fields and Jake Fromm moving forward, you got two elite athletes, two great guys. There's competition and there's healthy competition. Well, you don't have the luxury of putting two quarterbacks on the field at one time. And in my sales force, I'm relating it back to my sales force. Got a lot of great salespeople. How do you foster healthy competition when you got a lot of elite athletes or elite business folks?
For us, it doesn't boil down. I know you're not trying to relate to the quarterback position, but it really doesn't, because from day one, the standard is set that the best players are going to play. No one's ever accused me of not playing the best players. And I think if you can go through life or go through the position you're in without ever getting accused of that, they know that there's a certain standard of excellence, and we're all pulling together. And I think when you talk about healthy competition, it relates back to Sony and Nick. No greater example is there anywhere in the world. I know that you can say, well, they're not on there at the same time. No, they alternate and they play different roles. But Jacob Eason was pulling as hard for Jake Fromm. And if you look closely to the picture of the video of me running down the sideline against Auburn in the SEC championship, Jacob Eason's right behind me. He couldn't run as fast as me, but he was right behind me because it was important to him that we win. And I think selling the we in that competition is what drives somebody to beat somebody else, whether it's in sales, because we are all together when it comes to that. Even though I get it, I understand, especially the players I'm relating to, and it may be this way with your sales force, that a lot of people are monetarily driven. A lot of people are driven by what's in it for me. But if you can sell that we're going to be more successful if you do this role, just like this year. We had more guys get drafted, more guys make academic accolades, more guys make all SEC. Was that because we were that much better, or is that because we won? Because we won. And everybody gets more when you win. So we try to sell it that way, and it doesn't become spiteful. I think being very honest in bringing guys in individually. If you bring in the left corner and the backup left corner and you say, this is what's going to define who plays. And then they know that. And then you show them, this is what you did, and this is what he did. This is what we're doing now. It's a lot easier. There's no gray area. You take the subjectivity out, you explain the standards, and you command and demand excellence, and then you make decisions that are best for your organization. And that's what we have to do as a staff, a team. It's not just my decision on who plays right corner and who plays – I want the input of the people that I'm employing. If you're going to pay these assistant coaches and all these people, let's get information and let's make the best decision and use the people around you. But that helps breed the competition, which I think is important. Competition drives us all. And if you're not competitive, then you're probably not going to flourish in the environment that I've created.
Coach, thanks again for supporting Terry.
Yeah.
Two questions. One, what's been the biggest challenge for you moving from a coordinator role to a coach? And second, what do you tell your team at critical turning points? I'm thinking of this past season, the loss at Auburn to the SEC championship game, halftime at the Rose Bowl, halftime at the national championship game. Can you share with us some of the things you say to the team and how you make adjustments in those situations?
Yeah, I think it's really important to be consistent. So your messaging is consistent. They don't see a loss of composure in times of tumultuous situations. We went through some really tough times. We're sitting there at Auburn, and it's a tough environment. We're not playing our best football, but we had a ton of self-inflicted wounds. So to be able to define that after the game in the locker room in an emotional moment and have leadership stand up and say, hey, can you tell me what we did wrong? Sony, stand up. Sony, you had a personal foul. Is that indicative of you? And allow them to take ownership in that. And then we as coaches take ownership. So we didn't do as good a job. We weren't as prepared. The environment. But to be honest, because these kids see through anything fake, and to tell them where we were short and how we can get to where we're going, I think it does wonders for these guys. You walk in a team meeting room and tell them, hey guys, we didn't give you our best version of us as coaching staff, but we need the best version of you. So we got to come together and do this. That re-energized our team. It was the best thing that happened to us was the loss at Auburn because it got everybody re-energized, got everybody refocused. There were no more do-overs. So that's taking those moments and using them as learning. I think about the halftime at Oklahoma. There was never a fear that we couldn't score. I mean, they hadn't stopped us. So it'd been different if we're in there and couldn't move the ball at all and couldn't stop them. So I knew we had to do something to get the defense's attention, to get them playing more aggressive. And I went to Sony and I said, Sony, you're going to have to go in there and impact them. I've gone over there between every series, tried to talk to them. They got a ghost look in their eye. I said, it's going to take somebody with compassion and energy that they relate to, that they know, who's got street credibility, who's got what they look for, moxie. And he went down there and didn't even spend time with the offense. Got in some people's butts and started firing guys up. And then all of a sudden, that roller coaster started. And a couple good things happened. And then, hey, we're back in the game. But I think as a leader, you've got to put those people in the right situations. That didn't happen for Sony just because I went over and said it. It happened because in the summer, when we had leadership meetings and we developed a leadership committee, and I've talked to Sony 1,000 times, there's going to come a time when you got to confront and demand. That was the time. And it paid off all those buckets we had up there, those 21 buckets. We had filled all those up. And by the Oklahoma game, we're pouring them out. We're trying to get out what we put in. And that's why you invest so much in the infrastructure so that you can get those moments out and those big moments in games. Yes, sir.
Coach, one of the things you, from the outside looking in, you do very well, and it's probably one of the most challenging parts of your job is just time management. I mean, you're in Athens, and you got a lot of contacts and friends and kids, and of course, a very demanding job. What's kind of your secret to juggling it all?
Yeah, time management, that's been a work in progress for me because I felt like as a defensive coordinator, I could just like really hone in and focus almost like missile lock on this. And that was the biggest adjustment in becoming a head coach is where do I feel good delegating? That's hard. I mean, you can say what you want. If you're a micromanager and you like having your hands on everything, there's a lot of things to have your hands on when you're the head coach or CEO or leader of an organization. I had to be comfortable letting other people do it. And then I had to do a much better job of explaining exactly what I wanted done. Because what I was finding is I'm not telling them exactly what to do, but I'm getting upset when it's not done correctly. So making sure you define the role, how you want it done, demanding they do it right, confronting when they don't is really important. But the time component of that for me became, okay, I was comfortable with this structure. It's a structure I'd kind of been in Alabama for 9 to 10 years, and I said, all right, I got to tweak this a little bit. I want to spend a little more time with the offense because I want to know what they're doing. I also trust the defensive guys that they've been in a room with me and think like I do. And then the psychology piece. You know, having leadership groups, having meetings, spending time with the players, having them out to a lake house and going and just being compassionate and being around them. Once you do all the buckets and you start filling the bucket of fundraiser and you do all things, you start saying, well, where's my family involved in this? So you got to take a step back and say, what's important to me? What's important now? And that was our win mantra. What is important now? And just go by that. And for me, it's always been family first. Got a wife and 3 kids that mean the world to me. I want to make sure they're involved. They stay involved. They come around our players. But the time demands have never been greater, especially with recruiting the way it is today. Because my phone is never off. It is never. People are like, well, when do you take off? I might take off, but that phone's on. And you better believe there's 350 kids texting, calling, wanting to know what's going on, craving attention. Those demands become tough. But if you stay grounded in your ways and you have a plan and you follow that plan and you delegate things, and the further I've gotten in this, the more comfortable I've gotten with allowing people in the organization to do things on their own and make their own decisions as long as you're managing at the top. It's been good. Thanks, Jay.
Hey, Coach. At the beginning, you mentioned one of the things right here. Sorry. One of the things you mentioned you enjoy about your job is it sounded a lot about the college aspect of it. You know, shaping young men who are going to then go on to pursue other opportunities. Can you just explain a little bit about your experience with the Miami Dolphins and if there are any key differences there, and then any big takeaways for you from that experience?
Yeah, I'll give you one. That's a great question because even coming in here today, I was thinking, well, you know, we get our kids for 4 years, maybe 5, sometimes 3. We're trying to develop them, but they're yours. Well, then you take the NFL part of it. Relates a little more to you guys. All right, it's real world in the NFL. The relationship is not the same because it is a business relationship. It is completely different. One of our graduate assistants, Tavares Tillman, who played at Georgia Tech, God love him, He was at the Dolphins, and we were almost the same age. I actually played against him. So here I am coaching a guy that I played against who is a lot better player than me, and he's playing in the NFL, and that relationship was tough because he's from the state of Georgia. I've known him for a long time, and here I am coaching him. Well, he knows that if he doesn't perform, he gets cut. He's gone. There's no, it's a business relationship, and true business people appreciate the fact that if I don't produce on the field, I don't produce in the real world, that I can be let go. I don't perform. It's the whole participation trophy mantra. You're not winning, you're not performing, then you get let go. So that was a different dynamic. And I think about the difference in Pete Carroll sometimes. When Pete Carroll talked about his success at the Seattle Seahawks, he knows that the bottom line is production. And if they're not producing at a high level, then he's going to be willing to let them go, cut them, and say, hey, look, I'm not, you can go somewhere else and try it over. You can go develop somewhere, but I can't have you in this organization because you're not doing things right at night. You're not going to sleep when you need to. You're not performing at the highest level. So there's definitely a line between those two, and it was very different at Miami. I really enjoyed my time at Miami because it was unique. It was more salary cap driven. It was more business related. You had to manage people's salaries. You had to manage personalities. Less coaching, more management. Where in college, it is development. It is relationships. It's what Nick always says the reason he went back to Alabama was he didn't feel like he had that relationship. That bond that you saw Jason Garrett and Witten have, that's harder to have because you're only going to have that with the guys that play for 10, 15 years who are 1%. It doesn't happen as much. So I find a lot more value and a lot more self-worth in being around the college athlete and seeing them grow, develop, see them achieve a degree, see them have a chance in the NFL. That makes you feel like you did something good. It's much tougher at that level. Now, there's guys at that level, coaches, that hey, they love those players they've coached. I mean, the guy that cut me, great story, Vic Fangio. He's the defense coordinator of the Colts. I go to the Colts. Man, I got no business being at the Colts. Peyton Manning's out there torching me, beating me. I mean, I'm getting Marvin Harrison. I'm like, man, what am I doing? I hadn't seen this kind of speed come flying by me in forever. Well, Vic Fangio was the defense coordinator. He called me and said, you're not going to make it. He said, you're probably better off. I had a guy come talk to me and say, will you go over to NFL Europe and play over here? Which if you play in NFL Europe, you have to come straight back after like a 12-game season and go straight into camp with the NFL team. And I'm like, I'd seen these guys that had just come from overseas, and they were beat up, tired. I said, no, that's not for me. I'm going to go straight into coaching. But to this day, 20 years later, I don't know, it was 1999, however many years later, Vic Fangio and I are good friends. He calls me the other day from Roquan Smith's phone because Roquan is in Chicago interviewing with the defense coordinator, and it blows. It's Roquan Smith. I answer. I'm like, Roquan, what's going on? No, this is Vic Fangio. I'm sitting here with Roquan doing an interview for the draft. Just want to know what you think of this young man. And I'm thinking, this is a guy that cut me 20 years ago. And he keeps those relationships, and those relationships are really important in coaching, and it makes you have some self-worth in what you do. But there's also a fine line that kids recognize and players recognize that it is a business.
Coach, Rich Casanova here with the Pro Business Channel. When you have some time off, you turn off your phone, you're welcome to come 2 doors down and for an interview in our studio.
Good job. You're a good recruiter, too.
All right, thank you. So with the Pro Business Channel, we'd love to have you tell this story of your Terry College of Business. But more importantly as well is we just launched a new pilot series called Nonprofit Radio as our way to give back for our channel. So we'd like to hear if you would share maybe some nonprofits or some philanthropic efforts or some organizations that you support or that you're affiliated with.
Yeah. So the Kirby Smart Family Foundation is one we created at the University of Georgia. For us, it's an opportunity for my wife and I, especially my wife, who really wanted an opportunity to give back. Obviously, she lost her mother to breast cancer. I had my older brother, Carl, had leukemia at an early age. So our ability to affect young children, to give back to the community. We've done a lot here in Atlanta with the Shepherd Center, giving back to them. Children's Hospital, the Rise Youth Center that was over in Tuscaloosa, our kids went to through 5th grade. We're able to give back to that community. But for us, the Kirby Smart Family Foundation, which if you have an organization you feel passionate about, they're able to apply for donations, and it's really big for us because we know that our influence is the greatest thing we have. The platform that I have now, the head coach at the University of Georgia, an opportunity to give back. We want to give back to so many others. The Boys and Girls Club in Atlanta and in Athens has been a big part to us. We love sending our players over there to impact youth and be great leaders in the community. We want to do that every chance we get, and it's been a great opportunity to do that. And I'm very thankful for the people who've given to the Kirby Smart Family Foundation, because it allows us to give back over and above what we do ourselves. Thanks. Yes, sir.
Hey, Coach. So your second year, I don't think happens without the first year, and you know, now that going into your third year, what changes, what stays the same, and what approach are you taking now that you have that bullseye on your back and you don't have that tight group of seniors and you know, inspiration from a maybe less than wanted first season?
Yeah, first of all, I want to really agree with what you're saying. The second season never happens without the first season. If we come in and win 9 or 10 games, the motivation for the second season would have never been there. A lot of those guys were driven by that lack of success. So they were motivated to come out and say, hey, we got a chip on our shoulder. So we talk to our guys all the time. Do you need that chip to be great? Are you going to act like you've arrived? Are you going to develop complacency? Because we're not as a staff, and I can as a leader. So everything we do has to be meticulous and detailed to make sure they understand that you are targeted now. You are the ones that they're coming after. And we've tried to be very honest about it. I mean, we take a group of leaders and we sit down and say, okay, tell us why we were successful in 2016. Write down. So it's a group. They sit around a table and they were like, well, why we weren't successful in 2016 versus why we were in 2017, and write those things down. Because I don't want it to be about Sony, Nick, Roquan, because those shoes are huge to fill for a young man that's 19, 20 years old. I'm not asking them to fill those shoes. I'm asking them to mimic those behaviors, okay? Can you go and say, hey, this is not the way we should practice? Or are you going to sit back and not do that? Well, we've tried to come up with some different ways. I've met with Trevor. We've talked to all kinds of people. We brought Dr. Elko in, who's a great speaker, and we said, how can we get guys to be comfortable being uncomfortable, which is standing up and leading? So we start off a lot of meetings, and I'll put a play on from the day before practice, just like you guys can do, and say, hey, I need you, Jonathan Ledbetter, to tell me if this is okay what DeAndre Walker's doing. Are you okay with him not running to the ball, stopping, and letting the play go over here? Because if you're okay with that, I'm good with it, but I need you to tell me if that's acceptable. Because for me to stand up there and do it is me calling him out, and I'm constantly doing that. I get enough of that. But for him to say, no, we can't have that, he's got to stand up in front of the room and say that in front of everybody. That's hard. It's calling your buddy out. But we force them to do that, and that, we hope, gets a little more leadership, because we're lacking in that department from where we were last year. We've got to develop that, and I'm a big believer that you can develop leadership, and you can put these kids in a situation to be a little uncomfortable so they're willing to step out of the comfort zone and say things they wouldn't normally say. But a big part of last year's success was driven by the motivation from the previous year. But how we're going to change that now? By doing what we did the second year and leading the same way. It may not be the same leaders, may not be the same voice, and we may have to input some of that as coaches, inject some more leadership into it, but that's our job. We got to do a good job of that. Yes, ma'am.
You've talked a lot about leadership this morning, so how do you, what are some of the tactical things that you do with your players to help develop those leadership qualities? Books that you encourage them to read, or tactical ways that you develop that leadership qualities, and how do you identify it?
Yeah, well, we're always working on that. I think one of the coolest things we've ever done, Trevor came in with us and sat down, and we gave it was a group of leaders. It was about 15 guys on my leadership committee. We gave all of them a sheet of paper. They wrote their name at the top, and then they passed the sheet of paper around. All right, so every person in the room had to write down on the sheet of paper what they thought that person on the team's role was and what they thought they could do better. Well, you think, well, that's a simple task, but it kept that person from having to say it verbally to that person. You give me the anonymity to write it down and say what this guy needs to do and what you think his role is, and you don't have to write your name by it. It was incredible, the impact. Those players came to me afterwards and after the season and said, Coach, it was awesome. It's like I got a script from 12 guys that told me exactly what they thought my role was and what they thought I could do better. That's good. You're getting input from your peers, and they're not having to say who's saying it. So we're trying to develop better leaders by doing objectives like that. We have a leadership group once a week. We come in and talk, and I try to make them talk every meeting, get them uncomfortable so that they'll talk in there among a small group. They'll be more apt to speak up. You know, Roquan Smith, I've told this story, was incredible. Every pregame meal, you always worry as a coach, are they loud? Are they talking? Are they on their cell phones? We never had to worry about that. We didn't have to worry about it. And it's so good as a coach to go in there and go, I can think about the game plan instead of worrying, is so-and-so over there talking? Because Roquan walked in, and if it got over this much decibel, hey, hush, guys, let's go. He developed that. So we're constantly working on that. And when you develop that, it becomes much easier as a coach. I don't think it'll be that way this year, but you're always trying to confront and demand, get guys in front of the room, make them talk, get them comfortable doing that. There's not enough things we can do. I know FSU, Jimbo sent a group of 12 guys to IMG, and they took a week-long leadership seminar, which is tremendous. You get them off in a common area, removed, really helps. And we get a lot of ideas from different businesses of things they do that have helped us. So it kind of goes both ways when you cross over athletics in the real world. Yeah.
Patillo, nice to meet you first off, and
Yeah.
congratulations on a fantastic start to your career at UGA
Appreciate
as a
it.
coach. Yeah. One thing that I just wanted to, I guess, get your opinion on and thoughts on. I know one thing I really respect about University of Georgia is the balance between academics and athletics and kind of the true value we put into being student athletes here at the school. And was interested coming from a coach's perspective and also being a player that, you know, back in your days at UGA, what's your philosophy with winning and preserving the in the classroom side of things, especially with players who may not be NFL prospects but still maintaining that academic standard for UGA?
Yeah. Well, first off, I probably would have never been at UGA now, so I'm very thankful that I got in when I got in to be successful academically. The rigors of the academic side have certainly changed, and they've gotten much more difficult, as all of us know, or you will find out as you have children that try to get in, because it is tough to get in the University of Georgia, which should make us all proud. We should hang our hat and be proud of the academic integrity we have. I know as a coach, it changes my evaluation process. It's not the same. It's not the same as going to some of the other schools we compete against to say, hey, I can just go sign this guy, he'll be successful. Because our guys are going to walk into a classroom in which there may be a greater disparity between them and the next guy. So how do you manage that? What do you do for them? What kind of support structure do you put in place? We do a lot to uphold that. But I don't use that as an excuse. I use it as an opportunity. Andrew Thomas is a great example, a young man that goes to Pace. He comes down to Stanford, Ohio State, all these places, and he wants to major in business. Hey, we'll go toe-to-toe with anybody in the world with our business school, and we want an opportunity to recruit the best athlete, because the guys that play the best are usually the ones that are really good in the classroom. I mean, we didn't have issues with Sony and Nick and Roquan academically. Those guys were on top of it. So we want guys that meet that challenge, that are up for that challenge, that are going to walk in the classroom and be as competitive in there as they are on the football field. And I learned a lot of those same things when I was there. I mean, it wasn't easy. I was sitting there taking MS 312 and legal studies and all the different classes, and I'm going, man, I think that makes our student athletes much more prepared when they go out in the real world, because you have an opportunity to hire one. I can promise you they have maxed out their number of hours with workouts, lifts, runs, but then on top of that, being successful in the classroom is not easy. But that's not something we apologize for. It's something we recruit to. Yep. Yeah, in the back.
Good morning. My question is about probably an issue that's larger than the University of Georgia. Where do you stand with student athletes being paid, and how does the relationship change within a team?
When you say the relationship change within a team?
Well, between the coaching staff, for example, and players, does it become more like the NFL? Does it
Oh,
become
you're talking
a
about if
business?
they were to be paid?
If they were to be paid. And
Yeah,
do you
first-
think they should be?
Yeah, well, I think that's a larger question when you say should they be. I don't think people fully understand exactly what they get right now. You know, what's changed over the years is they do get a cost of attendance. Right, the cost of attendance is based on your cost of attendance at your university. So a lot of our guys are getting $220, $230 a week at times. That's on top of them. They have their scholarship. That's part of their scholarship, but they get $230 a week, and that's not including food. That's not including clothing. I mean, that's on top of. And when they live off campus, they get more than that because they've got to go purchase a place to live. But it's not something that I can sit here and tell you I am for this or against this. It would be, how do we make it work? How do we do this to make it successful for everybody? And where do you draw the line? on what they get. Do some guys get more than others? Okay, the Power 5 schools, what do they get? You know, you got the haves and the have-nots, which exists right now. There's a lot of athletic departments that operate at much more efficiency than others. It's probably going to hurt the lower-end schools, probably going to help the higher-end schools. But it's a tough decision and debate. And for me personally, I think about what they get in an education at the University of Georgia. It's pretty valuable. But when you throw in the cost of attendance, which a lot of people don't realize these student athletes get now, when you get cost of attendance, you're talking about almost $800–900 a month, on top of some of our guys are able to get Pell Grants. So that's it's a big difference than just not getting a thing. Yes.
Hey, Coach.
That mic's tricky.
Is it on?
Yeah.
I wanted to ask a little bit more about work-life balance. I know you talked a little bit about how you manage your time, but moving from a coordinator role to a head coach role, I'm sure your working hours kind of increased a whole lot. So can you talk about the challenges that you faced in terms of time management, in terms of things that you had to do with an increased, bigger role, and how you managed family and your work?
Well, first, you keep the family first. That was simple for me. I mean, I'm not going to sacrifice there ever. I have defined roles of when I'm not going to be at the office. I'm going to be with my kids. Every opportunity I get to be around them, I'm big quality, not quantity. When you're there, be present. Be there. Be real. Be engaged. Talk to. Interact. And my wife would say he's sitting up there lying, but my kids wouldn't say that. And I thank Mary Beth for that every day, because she's very patient. She understands the nature of the business, being a student athlete herself. But you got to be able to turn off at some point. And when I say turn off, I can't turn off my phone. I turn off my mind from all the recruiting and say, okay, I'm going to go now and spend time with my kids and do that. When you say, being a head coach, do you work a lot more? I think as you move up in the organization, you actually sometimes get more help. Okay? I got more people to help. My biggest fear, I mentioned it earlier, was delegating and allowing. When I was defensive coordinator, I worked just as many hours as I do now. And people were thinking, no way, that's not true. Well, all May, I was on the road. So I went out at 6:30 in the morning, got to a hotel at 10:30 or 11 because I go watch a practice. The practice doesn't end until 8. Then you spend an hour with a high school coach. You're not getting to the hotel until 11. Then you got to get up the next morning and do it again. Well, I'm not allowed to do that in May, which is why I'm here with you. So I'm able to go out and spend time doing different things. So I went to IMG and said, okay, how can I learn how to better manage the media? How can I learn how to better speak in public? How can I increase my value as a fundraiser for the university? You got to go do those things to grow. It's just what we talked about earlier. You ripe, you rot, you green, you grow. So you got to keep growing. So my time didn't really change, because when I was a defensive coordinator now, I was leaving the office way sometimes later than I do now, because I felt like I needed that in-season mental practice. It was a different set of problems. And as you move up the ladder, they just change. They just change, but they're still there, and how you confront and demand those and how you approach them is what's really important to your success, okay? Again, guys, I thank you so much for coming this morning. I hope we've benefited in some kind of way, but listen, Terry College of Business and the University of Georgia, we're all in this thing together. What you guys have made in Terry College, and you represent in the real world and giving job opportunities to our players when they leave, is the greatest way to give back to our university. And that's what makes this place special, because so many in the Terry community are willing to do that. So for that, I say thanks, and go Dogs. Thank you, bro. Oh, yeah. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Kirby, for a very powerful message. In Terry, we are passionate about developing leaders, and what a tremendous example that you have set and everything that you've gone through today. I know a lot of people will be watching this back because it was so rich. We love your commitment to Georgia, but we really love your commitment to excellence. Thank you for the gift for being here today, and here's a gift to commemorate your sharing with us today. Right colors, red and black.
Amen. Appreciate that. Thank you, guys. Appreciate that, man.
It's great to be a Georgia Bulldog. We would love to pay for your parking. So if we have not validated your parking, make sure we do that on the way out. Look forward to seeing you next month, June 21st. For Paul Bowers, I hope everyone has a fantastic weekend, and go Dogs.